So, how many routers are too many routers? Can you have too many routers? We're going to talk about it here coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop. We're going to talk about routers. Okay, can you have too many? I don't think so. This is my collection, minus one, because one of them's up at the renovation house. Yeah, one of them's up there. I have a cutout router for drywall and paneling, that type of thing. That's up there. Otherwise, they're all here. And what you see here does not include the DeWalt that is under the bench on the router lift, as you can see here. So let's talk about this a little bit. Why do I have so many routers? Do I have a router fetish? Yeah, maybe. I'll give you a little history on some of these here. This is a little 1/4-inch tool shop brand, which means it is very cheap, Chinese, pretty much a piece of junk, but I use it as a laminate trimmer. And the way I ended up getting this was I was helping to do a project and I was too far from home to come back and get my small router, so just went to the local Menards and grabbed one of these. Actually, the bit cost more than the router did, but it does what it needs to do and it's adequate for that. And I've used it on Formica, which is a brand name laminate, and I've used it on FRP and that type of thing as a flush trim. It works fine for that. Would I want to use it for anything fine? No. It does not have the power. It is not accurate. Trying to adjust this up and down is kind of a best guess. If you're doing a flush trim with a bearing on the end, that isn't really all that important when you have a long bit. But this does tend to walk. So if you're looking for a small cheap router, this is not the one to get. Okay, next up in the line of small routers is what they call a RotoZip, and it has an 1/8-inch collet, and it can be used for obviously cutting a drywall. That's what I use this mostly for anyway, but you can buy 1/8-inch bits, which is what is in my Dremel router table back here, as you can see here. This is a custom build I did a while back, and as you can see below it here, it's a Dremel 4000, and I originally was going to use Dremel 4000 for several other things, but I've since come up with another one because I just leave that in the table, and it's used for a very, very small round over on scroll saw projects. That's all that's dedicated for. Next up is this DeWalt compact router, and I've had this for a few years. It is a D26670 compact router. And I use this mostly for patterning, and I've used this for laminate too. And this is very accurate. This does not creep. You have a little adjustment here for fine adjustment when you're up and down. And it has a collet lock right here. You push this button in, you can lock collet, change the bit. Limitation, 1/4-inch only. So 1/4-inch shank, no 1/2-inch shanks. Of course, this is small. I wouldn't want to be trying to use a 1/2-inch shank bit in this. So now we're going to get into a little bit bigger ones. We'll talk about first, and I'm going to move these here. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you've probably always seen this sitting in the background. This has a 1/4-inch collet only Black & Decker router in it, and it's on a Craftsman table that I bought at a yard sale and modified the mounting plate to put the Black & Decker router in it. Yes, it has the guard. Yes, I have the fences, I just don't use them. So what's in here? This is an 1/8-inch round over bit. It lives in here. That's all I do with it. It sits on the bench over here. In a lot of the projects I do and some of the things we sell need an 1/8-inch round over. This is very fast, a good way to do it. So people are thinking, well, you know, Black & Decker, that's kind of a crap brand. This is the first router I ever bought. I bought it in, I believe, 1977 or 1978. Black & Decker Industrial. This is when they really made stuff well, and it is built. It's heavy, it is accurate, It has a very good adjustment on it. I can bring things up in the 32nd of an inch or less. So it is really, really accurate, and I like it for that reason. Hence, the 1/8 inch round over bit lives in it. And that's all I use it for, because it's handy for that. I don't ever have to set anything up. It's always just right there. Okay, and while we're on the subject of vintage tools, here's one right here. This is a Craftsman Industrial plunge router. And I bought this one in the late 1990s. When we built our house, I needed to make, we made our own woodwork for this whole house. So I needed to have a good plunge router. This has electronic speed control. I can slow it way, way down. I can even slow it down far enough to use a rosette cutter on it, which is something you should never use in a router. That should be limited to a drill press, unless you can slow something down that far. It works well. Has a 1/2 and 3/4 collet. I have both. Has adjustable stops. And 3.5 horse. Can't buy this one anymore. If you can find one of these, it's a really, really good unit. It's powerful. It's accurate. The adjustments on it are accurate. It was their industrial model back when Craftsman still made some quality tools. Not like some of the Chinese garbage they're selling now. This is back when things were really built. Next up, Porter Cable 690. Right there. There again, back when Porter Cable made some really good tools. And it's got adequate power. It's easy to adjust. It works well. I have the 1/2 inch collet in it. I also have a 1/4 inch collet. This was actually a very, very cheap pawn shop find that I did a video on last year. And I've used this quite a bit since. And it's fine. No problems with it. I would like to have the D-handle attachment for it. Maybe I'll get that someday, but it works fine. Happy with it. Okay, next up, the Master Force. This is a Menards brand, and this is the 241-0834. And I use this in conjunction with that Porter Cable 690 when I'm using my dovetail jig. This has electronic speed control. It is great for running that dovetail bit. I run the straight bit in the 690. If you've never used a dovetail jig, you're probably a little confused, but you use one bit for the pins and the other bit for the tails. And I'll do a video on that here someday. I also have the plunge base for this, although I've never used it. It's always just dedicated for a dovetail jig. The electronic speed control is very easy to set. It's right at the top. It has a little port on the back here for dust collection where you can hook your hose to it. Maybe you can find the right adapter, because if you've done stuff with shop vacs or wet dry vacs, you know that everybody's got their own size, so you just got to find the right thing. And if you go on Rockwood, you can buy a whole assortment of adapters that you have the right thing. Also has a nice little window on the front here you can look through without getting chips in your face, which is good when you're, especially if you're climb cutting on a dovetail, which I know you're not supposed to do, but in some cases with certain types of wood you need to do that to avoid tear out, and this works perfect. I can see through there and I don't get chips in my face, even though I do wear a face shield when I'm doing it. So what's left is a DeWalt router that I have 561 or something like that I keep in this Rockler router lift. Yes, there's a newer model that doesn't require you to take these screws out to change plates. You just snap them in and out, and I am considering getting one of those. But this is very simple to raise this up. Got a 3/4 round over bit in it right now that I used to make some baseboard for the renovation house. Last use on it. This is very accurate. I did do a review on this router lift. It's a few years old now. It's gone through a lot of use. No, it does not creep. But where I leave it set, it stays there. I know some people say, well, they creep down, or I don't know how the hell they creep up, but some people say they creep up. This works very well. And like I say, I am thinking about changing over to getting the one with the snap-in plates and taking this router lift and building another router table for one of my other routers Or maybe another new router. You never know. I'm always kind of looking around and keep an eye open at yard sales and such. Estate sales, of course, I do frequent pawn shops once in a while to see what's in there. Secondhand stores, if you're looking to get set up with some tools and you're on a tight budget, those are avenues to explore. You don't necessarily have to buy a new one. You can find some great deals out there. So there's my little thing about, can you have too many routers? No, I don't think so. Do I have a router fetish? Yeah, maybe. But everyone has its purpose. It's nice to not have to change the bits between them when you're doing projects. Set your different routers up the way you need them. And you don't know, not everybody can afford that luxury, but over the years it's kind of worked out for me. You know, some of my stuff is pretty vintage, probably older than a lot of the viewers here. But it's my little take on routers. So no, I don't think you can have too many. You got something out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up, always helps the channel. And of course, we're always looking for subscribers. Otherwise, I'm Roger in the shop with my router collection, -1, for Innovation House. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next one.